Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. I'm Rick Walker. Great to have everyone here. I have no idea where tonight's program will take us. Well, I sort of do. I know that it will take us to the end. And I know that we're going to have a discussion about RFK Jr., Biden, Trump, their prospects for running mates. And by the time we get to the end, that will then segue into the Strange Bedfellows program at 9 o'clock Eastern. That's where I will join my co-host on that show, Lori Spencer, and we will talk about the RFK VP pick in more detail, because he seems to have some sort of surprise for us. The New York Times leaked a list of, or published a leaked list of potential running mates for RFK Jr. It has been receiving a lot of attention through the media. But now we're finding out that that whole thing might have been fake. So tonight, we're going to get the inside scoop, because as you know, Lori is directly dialed into the RFK Jr. campaign, and she has a video. I don't know what video it is. It might even be the video that I am going to share with you tonight, but I think she has something different, something more. And even if the video I run, which is out in the public sphere right now, even if that one is the one she has, she really does have the inside scoop on everything going on. And she will share as much as she possibly can with us tonight. So I'm really looking forward to that program with her this evening. We have a special guest coming on as well, Billy D. A pretty influential, high profile, political influencer, blogger, podcaster. It'll be an interesting conversation. Also tonight, David Menzies arrested again. That happened last night. He's now out of jail, the reporter for Rebel News. And you know what that means? His boss, Ezra Levant, he's cranking up the machine. He's going to sue the Toronto police. World War III. It was it looks like we get closer every day, but fortunately, it looks like we've taken like a teeny weeny tiny step backwards away from nuclear annihilation tonight. Just a tiny step, but at least it's a tiny step in the right direction. I'll explain. And what else do I have for you? Those are sort of the main things. Yeah. Oh, and the Russian election, Putin. I don't think this should come as a shock to anybody, but the Russians, They say that their election, their computer systems may have been hacked, and they're tracing it back to North America. I've been saying every country is doing it to every other country, so no country is immune to this. We'll show you what that's all about as well. So don't go away. We have a lot to talk about, and we'll take another kick at the can with the phone system tonight. Hopefully, we can get that up and running and get some people to call in. So be prepared for that as well. A new number, a new temporary number to call in on, plus the other new number that was the new number replacing the old number from before, which was a new number. So we have another new number, two new numbers, really. So get a pen ready so you can jot that new number or the two new numbers down. Are you following what I'm saying? We'll be right back.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
So before we get into all this other stuff, I just wanted to draw your attention to this CBC news page. All the headlines on the top part of this main news page for CBC television right now focus on electric vehicles. I just have to chuckle as I look at this because the mainstream media has been really all in on this climate change agenda, the electrification of the auto industry. It has been something of a sacred cow for the MSM for a long time. Really, the MSM, mainstream media, has been, in my view, acting like a mouthpiece for government and political activists and environmental activists who have been pushing to electrify the auto industry. But now it seems like we're getting some pushback, and with that, a reality check. The pushback coming because of this massive reality check. As these EVs are coming online, more are rolling out into the actual real world and being used in real world ways. People are figuring out what the shortcomings are. All you need to do tonight is look at the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, main news page and look at the headlines. What's cheaper, EV or gas? This scholar crunched the numbers. And just look at the headlines. I don't even need to read these stories. I can tell you what they say. I've read a lot of this stuff already. I've been following it so closely that you already know what these are about. And the headlines really tell much of the story anyway. Not that I'm trying to judge a book by its cover, but just look at these headlines. Where you live, how much you drive daily among key factors. People have been sold this idea that an electric vehicle would end up being less expensive than a gasoline-powered vehicle. And that can be true if you're in an area where the government is giving away free electricity, which they have been doing here for some time. In some locations, you can charge your car for free in many areas, but that is coming to an end. Now this guy here has done a bit of his own study and is finding that it depends on a lot of factors whether your electric vehicle is actually less expensive to operate or not. Then keep reading the headlines, and you're seeing that these concerns about EVs are really coming to the surface. EVs becoming easier to find in Canada, but not easier to afford. So right there, the second story shows that they are expensive. Alberta's $200 electric vehicle registration tax is sparking debate among owners. Yeah, no kidding. Rebates, subsidies, all the way down the line. That is what has been making electric vehicles a viable alternative to gasoline. And now already we're just getting started with this, and you're seeing the governments shifting their policies to now start to even, in some cases, apply taxes to electric vehicles instead of rebates. And that's already making them less attractive and maybe even not a viable alternative financially for people. Owner of Leaf EV, this is another headline, says 5 breakdowns have cost him nearly $10,000. So that's a Leaf. That's like an economy electric vehicle. And this owner, this story, looking at the exorbitant repair costs. What Canada can learn from Norway, the EV capital of the world. This one here, marketplace, same cars, same charge, different prices. EV drivers face inconsistent, unreliable charging network. We've talked about that. Even the CEO of Ford, who drove across the country in an electric vehicle, produced a series of videos highlighting the need for a more robust charging system across the country. Without it, these EVs are not going to be viable. Certainly not as convenient and maybe not even practical for a lot of people, especially on long haul trips. And then it says here, this headline, who benefits most from Canada's ambitious EV targets? Maybe China. That's what the headline says. And this is from the CBC, which in my view has really been very pro electric vehicle for a long time. It just shows that we have a long way to go still before these electric vehicles really do present themselves as a viable alternative to internal combustion engine powered cars. Real food for thought there tonight. Also, I'll just bring up this headline. Another Boeing aircraft. I was aware of this last night, and it's getting after I got off the air. So here's this headline. United Airlines crew finds panel missing on Boeing 737 plane after landing. So this plane was able to land safely. I don't think they were even aware that this panel had flown off the aircraft mid-flight. A Boeing 737 aircraft operated by United Airlines flew Friday with a large part of its exterior missing, it says in this report. This is on Global News, but it's really a wire service story that they are just picking up here and running on their website. The flight from San Francisco to Oregon landed safely, but upon arrival, crews discovered a broken exterior panel on the 25-year-old aircraft. United Airlines said no emergency had been declared and the missing piece was not discovered until all 139 passengers and 6 crew members safely disembarked from the plane. They're going to conduct an examination of the plane and perform all needed repairs before it returns to service. Good idea. The FAA says it has launched an investigation. It's the 7th reported incident involving a Boeing plane just this week. 7. Despite travelers' growing fears of flying with Boeing, aviation expert Richard Levy says the latest incident is not a concern. Meh. Nothing to worry about. He says here the airplane did not just come out of the Boeing factory. It was an older aircraft. The airplane landed safely. Yes, it's going to be an investigation because of the recent news with Boeing, he says. But as far as safety, this does not concern me whatsoever. This guy is a former commercial pilot, just being interviewed for this story, not like a spokesperson for Boeing. We've seen whistleblowers coming forward. We've seen lawsuits. We've seen this one whistleblower now end up dead, apparently from suicide, although some people are beginning to wonder what the circumstances surrounding his suicide might have been. And we've seen a lot of concerns surrounding the 737 MAX. Grounded for a while, issues corrected in software used to control these aircraft. Boeing has a big PR problem on their hands, but it seems to me this is such a it's like such a cluster of incidents. I can't help but wonder if it's just coincidence or if there's something else going on. 7 in that short period of time. How can that be? It is. I'm wondering if there might be some sabotage going on of some kind. I'm just wondering. I can't prove it. It's a question, not a statement. Just a question. And I have no information to support a conclusion one way or the other on that. I'm just asking the question. And I'm sure that the investigators will be looking at that possibility as well. They have to be, with that many incidents. Bolts missing on doors that fly off mid-flight, or that come loose and fall out, or whatever the case there might have been. And with all these incidents, too, of people trying to get into cockpits of aircraft, we've seen several incidents like that within the last few months. It's upside down world, man. It's pretty weird out there. World War III. Well, we're maybe a tiny step further away tonight. In the last, last week or so, we've seen Macron of France coming out saying he would consider sending French troops into Ukraine to go head to head with Russia. But saying that France won't actually take the lead on that. But we are seeing some suggestion or some indication that some Western NATO countries are preparing to implement a draft, potentially, maybe. There's talk about it. And now, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is sort of dialing things down a little bit. He's arguing that the countries supporting Ukraine are not in a state of war with Russia. He did participate in a joint news conference with French President Emmanuel Macron and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk in Berlin. And Scholz said that Germany, France, and Poland were among the biggest political, military, and financial supporters of Ukraine. He goes on and he said in this newser that he said, quote, "We stand closely and unwaveringly on the side of Ukraine. We have made this clear from the very beginning, and it will remain so as long as necessary," he said. And he went on and said, "It is clear that we support Ukraine. It is likewise clear that we are not at war with Russia." So those words help dial things down, turn down the temperature. That's a very good thing, because with all this talk of the F-35 now being cleared to carry nuclear weapons, indications that these jets are being positioned in places that might even put them within striking distance of Russia. Plus all this talk about maybe sending NATO troops in to Ukraine to go head to head and fight directly with Russian troops. This helps pull things back from the brink. So Scholz went on and said, "Germany, France, and Poland are committed to this together with many allies and partners in Europe. And on the other side of the Atlantic, we will not back down from our commitments," Scholz emphasized. He added, also that the Weimar Triangle, France, Germany, Poland, was very important to the unity of NATO. So just so you know, the Weimar Triangle is a trilateral format of Germany, France, and Poland. It was put together back in 1991. And initially, its goal was to develop cooperation among the three countries and was put together as a sort of a tool to bring Poland closer to the European Union and, of course, to NATO. At least those words are a little bit more sobering. Still very close to disaster, unfortunately, especially with this guy at the helm. Here's a little video that's gone viral of Joe Biden. A lot of Trump supporters sharing this one tonight. This is the guy that the United States people have entrusted the nuclear football to. Look again. Look at this. This way, Mr. President. Let me help you. Come this way. Do you know what your name is? What day of the week is it? Are you sure you're okay? Would you like an ice cream cone? I don't mean to make light of it, but the guy can't find his way to the door on his own. And he has his finger on the button. It might make us laugh, but we shouldn't be laughing. I feel sorry for him, actually. It just almost seems like abuse at this point, elder abuse, honestly. And I think it's just dangerous for the country. Now, this I found, this did make me chuckle. This I did find a little bit funny. This is Macron attacking Putin. Okay. After Macron's I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. Ah! That was funny. So what's going on in Russia right now? Well, we've got the presidential election underway. This is day 2 of voting. Tomorrow's the 3rd day and final day. Things are progressing over there, but they've had some obstacles. I'm going to tell you all about them when we come back on the other side of this.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
And so are we. And we're watching what's going on over in Russia, where the presidential election continues, day 2. They've already had very high voter turnout during the first 2 days of voting. Here's a story, though, that should really come as no surprise, I don't think, to anybody. And these are media reports based on information coming out of Russia saying that Russia is claiming the U.S. and Western countries are trying to hack its presidential election. These reports have been coming out now, well, since before the voting began, and we're getting more reports tonight of additional cyber attacks over in Russia. It says here, Russian President Vladimir Putin is running against 3 officially permitted opponents, as it says here, in the election scheduled to take place from the 15th to the 17th. Goes on here talking about cyber attacks, and I've seen reports tonight that as many as 90,000 attempts have been made now to hack into the online digital voting system that is being used over there in Russia. I'm not getting any indication that anything has been compromised, only that, at this point anyway, only that they're aware of it and they are trying to counteract it or mitigate the issue. But it just shows you that over on the Russian side, they're not immune to these kinds of issues. Every country, it seems, is vulnerable to cyber attacks, hacking specifically, to misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, information warfare, artificial intelligence, and its use in ways that could manipulate elections, maybe even sway elections or determine elections by convincing people of things that are simply not true. All the things that are a problem over here are also a problem over there. Although from what I'm seeing, some things are less of a problem on the Russian side from what I'm seeing, and other things are maybe more of a problem. Things that are more of a problem appear to be terrorist style, guerrilla warfare style attacks, like we mentioned last night in that interview with Kevin Michalitsy from Crimea. We've seen at least one incident where someone threw a Molotov cocktail into a polling station. We have also seen video that we shared with you last night, stills from that video, of someone dumping green dye into ballot boxes. And in both of those cases, it appears the people responsible may have been pro-Ukraine, anti-war activists. So they're having issues with those sorts of things. And then, of course, you have the ongoing constant information war on both sides, with the West saying that Russia's elections are not legitimate, that they're all basically rigged, dismissing it all, while over here or over there, they're saying, no, it is legitimate. It's just that Putin is incredibly popular. So he's expected, according to all the polls and projections, to win this election handily with about 80% of the vote. And that will give him another 6 years as president, 6-year terms. And in many ways, I think that the 6-year term can actually be better for a country because that can provide a little bit more stability. The 4-year cycle in the United States, it just seems very short. And if a president doesn't get the second term, it seems like they just sort of get started with things, and then the next guy comes in and undoes what the guy before does, and then starts off with something else. We've seen that with especially Obama and, Trump and then Biden. So Trump gets in there. He does what he wants. He undoes all this stuff and puts in what he wants. It takes him a year at least to kind of get things cranked up the way he wants it. Biden comes along, gets in. He undoes on day one everything that Trump does, then starts down a different path. It's like they're so busy undoing what the other person did before and then doing their own thing, especially with these executive orders. It seems very counterproductive and inefficient, but that's the price that we pay for democracy, I guess. And as much as I dislike the disruption and see that it is inefficient, I have to also applaud it and embrace it, because people say the system is corrupt and it's a two-party dictatorship, and I hear all these kinds of things, but at the end of the day, it really is the system itself that limits the power of these politicians and bureaucrats. And in many respects, I still argue that that is honestly the only thing that has been saving us. Can you imagine if someone like Justin Trudeau came into power and the system didn't limit his ability to affect change, or maybe even permanent change? Could you imagine if you had a president who came in and could just affect a change that would be everlasting, change the system even? That's what the system prevents these politicians from doing. It prevents them from becoming true authoritarian dictators that never leave office. They have to call an election after so many years, even in Canada. There is a deadline. So by 2025, Justin Trudeau has to go to the polls, has to give the people an opportunity to vote. He can go earlier, but he has to go next year. I can't remember the exact date, but it's early in 2025. So that's his deadline. That's what he's up against. And, he can't just change the Constitution willy-nilly. There's a lengthy process to do that. It could be done, has been done, but it's a long process, and it should be, because it's that Constitution that limits the powers of the government. Even these executive orders with U.S. presidents. They get into power, and on day one, they start signing up a storm, signing, executive orders, and they'll be criticized for it, because by signing executive orders, people say that's, them doing an end run around the democratic process, just making declarations and saying this shall be the way it is. But those executive orders can be undone by the next person coming into power. So they are not always. Well, it just shows that even a president has limited amounts of power, and even those executive orders have to be constitutional. These things can be undone. And the powers of these prime ministers and presidents, they're limited, because they have a limited amount of time in which they can do things, a limited amount of time before their pet projects are reviewed, their taxes, their carbon taxes. They get a carbon tax approved, implemented, in place. The next government can come along and undo that. Just saying, that's the beauty of the system. It is designed to eventually self-correct in a wide range of ways. And it's because it's also based on a legal system, the rule of law, and there are measures in place through the Constitution to some degree level the playing field from the government to the ordinary person, the citizen, because you do have some of these things in place. It just gives us a level of protection in the long run. It can sometimes take a long time, and then you end up with this ongoing, constant lawfare that is used to settle a lot of this stuff. But that's where it has to go, and that's where we're seeing a lot of it go since the pandemic now too, right? We're seeing lawfare used. We saw the government use lawfare against the people that were not supportive of government policies during the pandemic, lockdowns, mandates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, especially since this most recent court ruling on the Freedom Convoy, and the use of the Emergencies Act, which says that it really wasn't used in a proper manner and was unconstitutional. Now we're seeing lawsuits thrown back at the federal government, and some of them in a very, very big way. So that, I think, is also positive, but it shows that over time, the system can be used by the people too. It isn't just on the government side. You just have to know how to use it and use it properly and use it effectively. And that is where we're going. And that's okay. Those are the tools that are at our disposal. It's those tools as well that mean we don't have to go to war. We don't have to have a civil war. Those are the things that save us from those kinds of conflicts, that kind of violence. Again, that's all based on what the system is, though. So be careful when listening to people who say they want to burn it all down, because when they burn it down, it means that we're descending into chaos, anarchy, and quite possibly violence. And that ain't cool. We got to avoid that. So stay with me. More ahead.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. Where shall we go from here? Well, how about this, since we're still on this topic of election integrity? This is an NBC report tonight, and this got my attention because of these other stories that we're discussing. And this is about experts warning about AI and the use of it to disrupt possibly the 2024 presidential election in the United States. Experts wargamed what might happen if deepfakes disrupt the 2024 election. Things went sideways fast. Subheading: it was jarring for folks in the room to see how quickly just a handful of these types of threats could spiral out of control and really dominate the election cycle, said one of the organizers. This is also something I've been talking about a lot in the past year. So this story, it's like they had a mock election, wargamed this whole thing out, I guess. And they're talking about robocalls, the use of fake robocalls, AI-generated deepfake online posts. The Department of Homeland Security involved in this exercise as well. Police agencies, they're talking about cybersecurity here. It says here, unlike a natural disaster in which government agencies work through a central command, America's decentralized electoral system is entering uncharted territory without a clear sense of who's in charge. This is from Nick Penniman, CEO of Issue One, a bipartisan organization promoting political reform and election integrity. In here it says, in a mock White House Situation Room around a long table, participants played assigned roles, including as directors of the FBI, CIA, and the Department of Homeland Security, and sifted through the alarming reports from Arizona and Florida and numerous other unconfirmed threats, including a break-in at a postal processing center for mail-in ballots. Anything that can go wrong probably would go wrong. Maybe it has gone wrong. It goes on, it says, conferring with the tech companies, players who are government officials, in quotation marks, playing government officials, struggled to determine the facts, who is spreading deepfakes, and how government agencies should respond. This news anchor, Alex Witt from MSNBC, also took part in the exercise. He played the role of the president of the National Association of Broadcasters. So it was initially unclear that photos of and video of poll workers tossing up ballots in Miami were fake. And those images had gone viral in this exercise, casting doubt on the integrity of the election or the mock election. And then eventually the officials were able to establish that the whole episode was staged and then enhanced by artificial intelligence to make it look more convincing. And this is what I've been saying too. You can fake so much now. You could fake an entire election. I think we're almost at the point where you could fake an entire government with artificial intelligence. Fake videos, fake documents, fake websites, fake everything. You could make people believe just about anything. Governments around the world now have incredible technology at their disposal. And if you think that the technology that they're using is the technology we're using, think again. I think these governments, these intelligence agencies from all different countries have the ability to tap into incredible power, not just nuclear power, not just kinetic weapons, but information warfare power with computers and programs and systems that can generate such convincing material that you don't know whether you're coming or going, whether up is up or down is down, what's right, what isn't, what's real, what's fake. We don't know. It's easy, actually, just to sow seeds of doubt on just about anything. And by doing that, you can really prevent people from ever getting to the truth on any subject. Case in point, you take the JFK assassination itself, which I think is almost an entry point. It is an entry point for a lot of people who then find themselves on a journey of growing distrust and lack of confidence in the government. But a lot of people start right there. And when you look at just the JFK assassination alone, it won't matter now, I don't think, what documents are released. It won't matter if everything is released by government, all information surrounding that. If we had every last page of every report, every piece of evidence at our disposal, I don't think we would ever agree on what the truth is surrounding his assassination at this point, because there has been so much speculation, so many seeds of doubt have been sown, that if you could be looking at the truth straight on, right in front of you, it could be the absolute golden truth, and a lot of people still would not believe it, because so many other stories and possibilities, theories, if you will, are out there. That in itself becomes a problem, doesn't it? Because then you don't know, well, what about that? And what about that? And how could this be? So I don't think we will ever know the truth, because there's so much untruth wrapped around it. That's all you need to do. Just cast a little bit of doubt on something, and then people never get to the truth. It's such an easy thing to do, and I'm seeing it done every single day now. Today, I had a good friend call me. We had a great conversation. I loved speaking with him, and he started talking about information he'd heard, for instance, about Donald Trump. And I was listening. And he said, Donald Trump, I'm hearing all these people say that he's a cocaine addict and that he's actually incontinent. And he relieves himself in diapers and he smells bad. I'm listening to this. And I'm like, no, this is just people sowing seeds of doubt, throwing out false information to try to discredit Donald Trump, assassinate his character through innuendo. That's all that is. I see no evidence of that in any way. There's just nothing to support that I've seen. Cocaine, drug use. Donald Trump, listen to what he says. Look at him. He's come out strongly against any kind of drug use. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He's a germaphobe. I certainly don't see any evidence that he's wearing diapers. But a lot of people are believing it. They're believing it. And I have to turn this off. And doesn't stop there. You see it, this kind of misinformation, if you will, leveled at every political candidate. It's one thing to use research, and dig into somebody's past and have a political machine engaging in that to try and get in there, find out get some of the dirt on a political opponent, get some of those skeletons out of their closet. I get that. But also what goes on a lot these days is just outright lying. And then they use the humor excuse and hide behind that, where they post terrible things, accusations, innuendo, like Donald Trump is incontinent. Well, that's just, I think, a lie. But people would say, well, we were just joking, to protect themselves from some sort of a libel, slander, defamation suit. It goes on all the time. That's part of the game now. And you're seeing it with these wars, as they're trying to sell us these wars and try to get your support on one side or the other. I'm seeing tonight as well The Intercept, right? It's like this independent, pro-Palestinian, generally pretty right-wing news outlet. They're taking the New York Times to task, and they're engaging in this ongoing narrative where they're trying to discredit or suggest that the October 7th attack in Israel didn't take place, or if it did take place, that it was the Israelis killing their own people. So that, in my view, as I'm reading these things, I don't think that that's part of the information war. And they can present whatever information they want to present and try to build their case, and that's what they're doing. But in this day and age, that seems to be the routine. I see the pattern there. It doesn't matter what's happened in history. It doesn't matter what's happening right now. The idea is that the United States is always to blame for everything bad that happens. It's doing it to itself. And if someone does do something bad to the United States deserves it because of what they've done. And the same with Israel, because the United States and Israel are hitched together. Two peas in a pod. So the narrative right now that is being sold to people is Israel attacked itself. Israel knew this was happening and let it happen, just like 9/11, just like every other terrible thing that ever happened to the United States. The United States assassinated its own president in JFK. 9/11, the United States did it to itself. It was an inside job. There's no proof of that. None. No real definitive proof. There's no definitive proof of anything. That's what I say. You just sow seeds of doubt. I mean, I've seen it all, but I wouldn't say anything is definitive proof of anything. No definitive proof that is the case or it isn't the case. But because we're doubting everything, we just don't know. And that's enough for any political opponent. That's all you need to do, is just get people to a place where they just don't know. And by not knowing, they lose trust in their institutions, in their government, in their country. It's a dangerous place to be in. It's not happening just here. It happens all over the place. Now, in Russia, for instance, I think their system is insulated against it more because the government has a lot more control over media, the flow of information. And I think they're able to exert a little bit more, provide a little more stability, it seems. And that's just based on what I'm being told. Not to say that censorship is better or worse there necessarily. In fact, in some cases, maybe there's less censorship. I don't know. We're certainly getting more censorship here. We're seeing it now with these new bills being introduced by the Trudeau government, the Online Harms Act being the newest one, which it seems is really just Justin Trudeau's latest effort to exert more control over the internet and weaponize legislation in a domestic information war to use that as a tool to control political opponents, because it's focused on hate speech, and any kind of legislation that focuses on things like hate speech generally has at its very core an objective of controlling someone for political purposes. Again, very dangerous. Now, did you see overnight the arrest of David Menzies again? This is the second time he was arrested. He was at this huge pro-Palestinian protest in Toronto where Justin Trudeau was about to show up for a big fundraiser. Of course, a lot of people knew this was going to happen, so a lot of protesters showed up, and I've got the latest video here of this. He's now been released. I want to run this for you, because I don't like to see any journalist arrested, obviously. And the circumstances surrounding this one, again, it just seems like David Menzies is on the Toronto police hit list. Here's Ezra Levant. Check this out. There he is arrested. This is when he stabbed him. But he'll get into it more. He was in jail for much of the night.
Menzies is here.
So this is him getting out. This is the most recent video.
I promise you on behalf of our viewers that we will not only defend you against their bullshit charges, but we will take the fight to them and sue them for not only the torts they committed against you, but also the charter violations. I'm so sorry you went through this, and I thank you on behalf of our company and our viewers.
Ezra, it was a surreal experience. I'm so sorry you and Efren have wasted hours of your night here, and it was the least thing I expected. It was very funny. The pro-Hamas people, they can be violent. And we were talking in the morning meeting. We're not sure we have enough time to get security. And I said, oh, well, the Prime Minister there. there'll be security galore. There'll be RCMP. There'll be police. We don't need security. And I was thinking in terms of being protected from Hamas. I didn't think the police would do a stitch up to. Again, it's deja vu from January.
Well, we got it on tape. Efron was there, and we have it on tape where the police grabbed you and pulled you out.
What is going on now? We just want you to what's the problem? Guys, excuse me, we're trying to put him behind it. Hey, that's my guy. Hey, that's my guy. Hey, stop. Why don't you take care of the
We have the false arrest itself.
We'll be under arrest for respect, please. Here we go. Hey, stop. That's my wallet. You're under arrest for obstructing police. There we go. What is this? I've asked you for identification numerous times. You failed to identify yourself. That's obstructing police. Efren, can you grab my stuff? We'll get it, sir. Don't worry. Nobody will touch it. We'll get your identification for you. I think you guys are going to be hearing from our lawyers.
I'm looking at my watch. It's 12:18 a.m. You've been arrested for, I think you've been in custody for 4 hours or so.
That sounds right.
Now, were you physically hurt during the arrest?
I'm not. I don't think so. I mean, I've got this screwed up shoulder, but that's been an ongoing issue. But no, I can't say that. But again, Ezra, it's not the assault; it's the charge.
Oh, I know. It's your freedom of the press, but also your freedom of religion. Why should you have to move because some guy says this is holy sidewalk?
What?
Your freedom of mobility to move around? It's all violated not by the Hamas guys, but by the police.
Yeah, and it's amazing. The reason why we're there is that we were asking the pro-Hamas people on the other side of the cordoned off area by the police, to get comments. And then we knew the anti-Trudeau people were on the other side, led up by Derek, constant fixture. So we went there to interview him. That happened to be where this impromptu prayer session was going to take place. And I say it was going to take place because they weren't in any kind of prayer when I got there.
It was a stunt. It was a ruse.
Yeah. And I was looking for Derek, and then I recognized the individual who had stolen Lincoln Jay's camera.
Now the one.
Yes.
He's the thug. He's the leader of these Hamas thugs.
He seems to be getting the orders these days from law enforcement.
Well, I mean, if he doesn't have them delivering coffee to him,
Yeah.
he's giving them orders. Yeah, I got one more question before I forget. What was the cell you were in like? And I know you've been arrested before, for example, in Montreal. Just tell me what it was like in the holding cell.
It was cleaner than Montreal. I will say this, Ezra. They say time flies when you're having fun. When you are sitting in a concrete cell and you don't have a book or a magazine or a cell phone, time crawls at a snail's pace. That's the first thing. The second thing is, it's just a sanitary issue. There is a toilet right beside that little, concrete bed, but there's no warm water. There's no soap. There's no toilet.
No toilet.
I know. I don't understand. And it looked like somebody had taken paper towels and put some sticky stuff on it and had thrown it up to the ceiling because, you're lying there and you have nothing to do. You're looking at the ceiling and there's all these like paper towels that have hit adhesed.
It's so gross. And you know what? It's that way on purpose as a kind of humiliation. How are the police themselves? I mean, we saw some of the folks who arrested you. How were you treated when you were brought here and when you were put in the cell?
They were friendly. I will say that. They were doing their job.
And you got a phone call from the lawyer, Leora Shemesh?
I did indeed.
Okay. Did she, how long did you speak with her for?
Probably a good 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay.
And she basically said she'll be representing me and, take the paperwork, which I have, and she'll go to the court.
So we crowdfunded Leora Shemesh. We did a quick video of your arrest.
Okay.
And I want to say thanks to viewers who have chipped in at standwithdavid.com. We're not just going to play defense on this. I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine you're sick of it. We're going to sue the Toronto police because they have become politicized. and biased. There's two-tier policing. They are violating the charter rights of journalists. And no one has said no to them yet. Not the mayor, not the police chief, not the Toronto Star. So we're going to say no to them. We're going to ask a judge to say no to them. And we've done this before for other journalists. Our friend Avi Amini in Australia, he was falsely arrested again and again and again until we sued the police. And they actually wrote him a lengthy apology. We're suing the RCMP. We're going to sue the Toronto police. And we will not abide the abuse from the Hamas thugs, nor will we abide it from the Toronto police. And I want to tell you that. I don't want to keep you longer. Have you had a chance to call your wife since you got out?
No, I haven't.
You know, I'm sure she wants to get a call from you. We'll let you go because it's really late.
Yeah.
I would just say to our viewers at home and around the world, 200,000 people have watched the video of your arrest in the last hour. So people are outraged, as they should be. On behalf of Rebel News and myself, I want to thank people for standing with David. And I pledge to you that we will not stop simply with his acquittal. We will continue thereafter to go after the police until a judge puts them in the right place. Last question. What were you charged with?
It was, you know what? I think it was causing a disturbance. And
You had a Hamas intifada near riot, and they charged you with causing an incident.
yeah, and let's see. This is the detective that we have to deal with, Ezra. And also the second charge was violating my peace bond based on the fake arrest of the LCBO manager, Ashley Metella, who falsely accused me of assault. So I had to sign a peace bond, which
Struck peace officer, breach of peace bond.
yeah.
Absolutely outrageous, and we're not going to let this stand. We're not going to let Toronto turn into Gaza. David, let's get you calling your wife, and we'll say goodnight and thanks to our viewers. Cheers.
Thank you, Efren. Thank you, everybody.
So I thought we should run that because we're independent media. They're independent media. And that makes, when you're independent, it makes you an easy target these days for government and police who are sometimes maybe influenced, shall we say, by government. I'll be right back. Do not go away.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And so just back to my reference to the Intercept news outlet and their little feud going on with the New York Times, the Intercept calling out the New York Times, saying that their reporting on the October 7th attack on Israel has been inaccurate. They're saying these reports of sexual assaults, which were reported as part of the killings in Israel, they're saying they didn't happen, trying to cast doubt on that. I'm seeing other online influencers like, what's his name, Lee Camp. He's been very active in the last day or so with videos trying to discredit the reports from Israel. So there's an online focused campaign aimed at sowing seeds of doubt, I would say, on everything that happened on the Israeli side to bolster the Palestinian position. But you can see the bias, I would say, on both sides when it comes to reporting on this war. You can clearly see that in many cases the slant on this side or that side. It makes it difficult to know what the truth is because the propaganda is mixed in with the truth. That also makes me wonder about history a lot, because propaganda, information warfare is really nothing new. It's just that we're using new technology, new ways of delivering the information through the internet and of generating it as well through artificial intelligence, digital technology. I remember when Photoshop was first introduced, people were freaking out because you could do just about anything with Photoshop and create photos that looked very real and make people look younger, take wrinkles off, take years off their image. When I was in college and I was learning audio production, I learned very early on how to make people say anything you wanted them to say with audio editing. Working in radio production, you could use with a razor blade and old-fashioned audio tape, I could literally make people say things that they never said. And now with new digital technology, I can do that much easier. You can blend the audio together. You can take sounds and pops out. You can make it all clean. Back in the old razor blade days, if you listened very carefully and you knew how to listen for breaths and breaks in background noise, you could pick out edits if you were savvy and you understood the technology. Today, I can make stuff seamlessly fit together, and I can literally make people say things they never said at all. You just take a whole block of audio, a whole bunch of things that they've said, and you blend it together. You can take words out, put words here, piece things together. And I'm seeing it done, not just with audio, but with video all the time online, and people are not even aware. I ran a clip a couple of weeks ago right here on the show, and I showed everybody here the edited clip where the person in it was saying something that was obviously going to trigger a lot of negative emotions with people in our audience. But then I ran the full unedited clip where the actual meaning was completely the opposite. And most people were not even understanding what I was showing them. They were still thinking that the edited clip was the truth, and the longer unedited version, they didn't even understand the difference. But the shorter clip was easier to digest in people's minds. Anyway, it just shows how dangerous all this stuff. It goes back to that story that we were just talking about with information warfare and deep fakes and the way that they could be used in the upcoming presidential election and in the election here in Canada, and any election that could be used over in Russia right now. Maybe you could unseat Vladimir Putin in spite of all the advantages that he seems to have and as popular as he has. Who knows? Maybe the CIA could execute some sort of a coup within Russia simply using digital information warfare, deep fakes, and artificial intelligence and AI generated memes and videos. Just saying. Don't discount the impact that that's having already, not just on our electoral process, but on our society, on you, on me, on everyone, on what we think, things we think are true that are simply not. Donald Trump wears diapers. I don't think it's true. Prove me wrong. Pierre Poilievre is a member of the WEF. Prove me wrong. Prove me right. What do you think? I don't think he is. I haven't seen the proof, but people keep sending me this thing. I've talked about it. This, what looks like he was on the WEF website. And I'm saying that's not actually from the WEF website. That's from a different site. And this is the stuff that's going on every day. But it goes way beyond that. People believe in some pretty crazy stuff out there because they're being fed the information that I think is often just not true. But at least with what we just saw there with Rebel News, they're fighting back. They're using lawfare. They're using the system to hold police to account and the government for what happened to David Menzies again. That's important. That's effective. That's where you need to go. Use the system. Use the system. That's what it's there for. You just need to know how to use the system. So we wish David Menzies well, and a tip of the hat to Rebel News. And as we dig into all of that stuff, that gets us into this whole question of who will be the VP picks for Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We already know that Biden, who has now clinched enough delegates, enough support to be the nominee for the Democrats, it looks like he will run again. It's the same thing with Donald Trump. So he's going to be the guy. It looks like a rematch. But this time around, it'll be more of a three-way race because you have RFK Jr. in there, and he does have some popular support, more than probably any other candidate in recent memory who ran as a third-party candidate. But I've seen just in the last few days indications that the Democrats are really ramping up to come after third-party candidates. In fact, they have a whole organized arm of their political machine that will be dedicated this time around to attacking third-party candidates. I was just reading about it overnight again, and I think RFK Jr. is the reason for that. It's because they see him as a real threat. They're going to go after him or any other candidate that they see as a potential spoiler. I think they're maybe misreading the situation. I think Trump is misreading it. I think they're misreading it. I think a lot of people are misreading the impact that RFK Jr. is likely to have. A lot of people think he's going to pull from the Democrat side in terms of support. I don't think so. I think he's going to pull more from the Trump side. I think he appeals more to Trump voters. He's a populist candidate. He was with the wrong party from the very beginning. They didn't want him. He didn't really belong there. He didn't really fit in. He was like a misfit within his own party. Lifelong Democrat, lifelong supporter of the Democrats, said he was there because he had to fix the party. Good luck. No, couldn't happen, didn't happen, wouldn't happen, can't happen. Not him, not just him up against the machine. It needs to be a broader based effort within the Democrat Party. He can't do that alone. So they cast him out. They don't like him. They don't like his talk, his position on vaccines. They don't like his position on a lot of things that they consider to be conspiracy theories. And then we're seeing within the RFK Jr. camp all this talk about, well, who's going to be his running mate? Who's going to be his running mate? Within the last week, we saw this list released by the New York Times, which now overnight I'm hearing from Lori that that list might just be fake, might have been fake all along. Like maybe it's none of the above from the list. The two finalists that we saw in there, who was it? Aaron Rodgers, the football star, and Jesse Ventura, the wrestling star, former governor of Minnesota. Now we're hearing, no, probably not either one of those guys. We'll show you why. And Trump, what's going on with him? Who's his VP likely to be? Who's his running mate possibly going to be? Who, like Vivek Ramaswamy? I don't think so. Some people think maybe. Well, who else might it be? Well, we know who it's not going to be. It's not going to be Mike Pence. Pence just came out within the, I think it was yesterday. And in an interview, he said, I am not going to endorse Donald Trump. Pence dropped out fairly early in the race where he was challenging Trump for the leadership, for the nomination of the GOP. Ended his run for the White House that way, but now coming out again and making a public statement on that in an interview. Make no mistake, he did that on purpose. And other people wanted him to do that on purpose. For whatever reason, Mike Pence sees Donald Trump as some sort of threat to the country. That much I think is clear. There's a switch that's been flipped inside Mike Pence. I don't know when that happened exactly. Maybe on the day of January 6th, maybe a little bit before that. I think it was around that time where they parted ways. Trump, of course, wanted Pence to take steps to not have that election certified. And Pence on J6, and then after, went ahead and did just that. It comes down to a question, again, about election integrity. Do you believe that the election was lawful, that it was legitimate? That's really at the core of so much of what has been going on, isn't it? If you believe that it was legitimate, then you're probably on the Democrat side. If you believe that it wasn't legitimate, then you're likely on the other side. You're going to be on the MAGA side. And it shows how extreme people's views can be on something like that. Because if you believe that an election was legitimate, then you would say that it's your duty to defend the country against anybody who might otherwise try to overturn the results. But if you think that the result was not legitimate, then you would be equally passionate on the other side and see it as maybe your duty, your patriotic duty, to challenge that, maybe up to and including overthrowing a government, whatever country you might be in, right? So you can see how people can be so deeply divided over such an issue and why election integrity is so important. People need to not only see an election, an election not only needs to be fair and have integrity, it needs to be seen that way. If you have a legitimate election and seeds of doubt are sown, then you've undermined democracy that way anyway. And the election, therefore, is useless in many respects. It's especially dangerous when you have about half the country believing that it is and half the country believing that it isn't. That in itself is just about enough to tear a country apart. You don't even need to undermine the integrity of an election, rig it. All you need to do is sow seeds of doubt. And I'm not saying that it was rigged or wasn't rigged one way or the other. All I'm saying is that's all it takes. And that's why we're seeing such disruption, such destabilization, such instability in Canada and the United States right now, especially in the U.S. People have lost confidence. And a lot of that is because of information warfare and also because of what we saw during the elections themselves and the changes and the shenanigans that go on. And that's why there needs to be a very clear set of rules as well. These are not easy things to fix. And so as we enter into this election season, things are going to get real, real hot. You're going to see all kinds of disruption in the streets, all kinds of protests. You think that, what we've seen in the past with Antifa clashing with counter protesters and on and on. It was, that was nothing, I think, compared to what we're about to go through this time around. This has an entirely different feel. Donald Trump, everything surrounding him right now has a really different feel than it did certainly back in 2016. There's a lot more anger out there. He carries a lot more baggage. He is a politician now. He wasn't in the beginning, he said. Oh, he's a politician now. He's seasoned and he's been around. And they've hammered on him and they've come for him and they've now thrown so many people in jail for political reasons that there's real, genuine, real seething anger. Beware. We're in for a rough ride, folks. So who's Trump going to have as his VP? I don't know. Some people were saying Tulsi Gabbard would be a good pick for RFK Jr., and they apparently were speaking with her, but now she's not talking to them anymore, and she just recently had she just recently was involved in a fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago for Trump. And here she is speaking about how she loves her country. And some people saying, hey, Tulsi, don't support Trump because, he's dangerous. Some people view him as being very unstable. Other people are saying, yeah, Tulsi, that would be a winning ticket. And I think she'd be a great choice for him. But is it going to happen? Some people are saying no, because if you remember on the impeachment question, I don't recall this, but I guess she voted in favor of impeaching him.
I love our country deeply. I don't hold office. I'm not here to campaign or ask for votes. I'm here to ask you to join me in this fight for our freedom.
Now she's not a Democrat anymore.
We need to sound the alarm to those who aren't yet hearing it. It's what I'm dedicating my life to between now and November 5th. I'm not here to tell you how to vote or who to vote for. I'm here to ask you and challenge you to encourage others to stand up and defend freedom. To take some time, as we do during Ramadan, as we should do more often than once a year, is to study the Constitution. Look at the Federalist Papers. Understand how powerful that vision was our founders had for our country, and how critical it is for every one of us to continue that legacy as we strive to be that more perfect union together as Americans who love this country deeply. There may be some bruises that you'll get along the way, because as Jody has experienced, and many of you may have experienced, those who feel threatened will stop at nothing who stand for freedom. Put on that suit of armor and know that we stand on the right side. Because today are leading our great nation toward that suicide that Abraham Lincoln warned us about. And if we don't act now, at some point in the future, we will look back on this moment right now in 2024 and think, well, if only someone had warned us. We cannot allow that to happen. It is by God's grace that we are free, and we must do all that we can to remain free. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Tulsi Gabbard, I've always liked her, even when she was a Democrat and she was running for the nomination to run as a presidential candidate for the Democrats. I remember a good friend of mine, young lady, she messaged me and she said, I'm so confused. She speaks like a Republican. She sounds like a conservative. I was like, Yeah, she does. It is very confusing. And at the time, I said if she were to run against Trump, she'd give him a run for his money. She had the narrative down. She was just, again, with the wrong party, just like RFK Jr. But it's not going to happen on the RFK Jr. side. Could it happen with Trump? I think it could. I think she'd be a great choice. But as was pointed out to me, apparently she voted in favor of impeaching him. And he probably hasn't forgotten that. So he's looking for somebody, I think, that would never take a knife out and stick it in his back after his experience with Mike Pence. Now, was Mike Pence sticking a knife in Trump's back, or was Trump sticking a knife in Pence's back? That depends on your perspective as well. And I know Pence is not very popular these days. But I've taken some time out to read some alternative points of view from political pundits on the Democrat side, and they're viewing Trump right now again as, I mean, quite honestly, as like a Nazi, literally as like a Nazi. That's how they view him. I have to confess that this time around, there does seem to be more anger, more darkness surrounding the Trump campaign than there was before. I can't quite put my finger on exactly what's going on with it all, but it absolutely has a different kind of feel. Makes me a little leery. The RFK Jr. camp is embracing a little bit more positivity, maybe a lot more. But at the same time, I also see that it seems to be almost a campaign that keeps shooting itself in the foot. Controversies, problems with fundraising, people within the party attacking their own candidate over the Gaza issue, Israel, when every other candidate, all of them support Israel, and RFK Jr. does too. He's being the candidate that everyone attacks on that issue. He's like their punching bag, and he's their own guy. I don't get it, but there it is. Who's going to be his running mate? Well, the New York Times came out with his list. Who was on that list? Well, the short list, two guys, basically, Aaron Rodgers, the football star, Jesse Ventura, the former governor of Minnesota and wrestling star, movie star. Seems like RFK Jr., at least his campaign team anyway, and if there is any legitimacy at all to the list, they're focusing on celebrities, looking for some star power, I guess. Maybe. At least we've had some media attention focused on all that. So here's Aaron Rodgers with RFK Jr. right there. And there's Robert F. Kennedy. So Aaron Rodgers is reposting the RFK Jr. Twitter post saying, with Aaron Rodgers in Santa Monica, my dad said it best, moral courage is a rarer commodity. This is what RFK is saying. Moral courage is a rarer commodity than bravery in battle or great intelligence, yet it is the one essential vital quality for those who seek to change the world, which yields most painfully to change. And just as you scroll through and you look at the Aaron Rodgers X account, does this look like a guy who is ready or being courted for a possible running mate position with a presidential candidate? I don't know. Like, he's retweeting this stuff from Kennedy, but I don't know. I'm not seeing a lot of indications here that he's like positioning himself for it, or that, maybe it's just him playing it low key. He has come under fire because he was listed as one of the two main guys in mainstream media. So they came out and attacked him for his views on vaccines because he sort of was involved in a vaccine PR battle. He didn't get the thing in the arm. So back at that time, he was front and center in the media. And then, and he sort of misled people, led the media to believe that he had sort of been vaccinated when he wasn't. That was very controversial. Some people applauded him, though, when it finally was revealed that he was sort of using a play on words. He didn't really come out and lie. He just led people to believe something else. But then they hit him on this issue of the Sandy Hook shootings, saying that he'd indicated, like Alex Jones, that he didn't believe that it had really happened. So he is responding to the media attacks here, saying, as I'm on the record saying in the past, what happened in Sandy Hook was an absolute tragedy. I am not and have never been of the opinion, excuse me, that the events did not take place. Again, I hope that we learn from this and other tragedies to identify the signs that will allow us to, and it goes on, to prevent unnecessary loss of life. My thoughts and prayers continue to remain with the families affected, along with the entire Sandy Hook community. So that's Aaron Rodgers. And then he's also on here. He's supporting a charity here in his most recent X post. And what about Jesse Ventura? Well, we ran a clip of Jesse Ventura where he endorsed, at one point, RFK Jr. Let's just take a look at his X page. Is this a guy who's positioning himself tonight to be RFK Jr.'s running mate? Has anything been said to him? Because we're getting all kinds of indicators that RFK has already made up his mind. He just hasn't made the final announcement yet. Jesse Ventura, die first, then quit. on his homepage here on X. Says, I support all third-party and independent candidates running for U.S. president this year, from Cornel West to Dr. Jill Stein to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and everyone else not running under the Democrat or Republican banner. We must end the duopoly of Republican and Democrat. So he's supporting all the third-party candidates. He's not just saying here that he supports RFK Jr. Well, that might be, in his mind, a proper strategy if he's in the on the short list for RFK. But if I were on a short list and I really wanted the job, I wouldn't be posting stuff like that. I wouldn't be saying it that way. That's me. So I don't think it's going to be Jesse Ventura. And I think that's okay. Because I don't take him that seriously on the political side. And I think RFK Jr. needs to broaden his base of support and bring somebody in who's just a little bit more mainstream. That's my opinion anyway. And, you know, just back to Mike Pence, and this is why it's so important to pick the right guy, because somebody who, on the one hand, for RFK Jr. is going to be very difficult because he needs to find somebody who shares his views on key issues, many of which are controversial, but at the same time is seen to be more mainstream so that he can be more accepted onto the Democrat side to pull more support from that. He can't win unless he gets support from both sides of the aisle. He needs to broaden his support. And even within Republican and conservative circles, he needs to be seen as more mainstream in order to get those middle ground voters. And if you look here at Pence, he's just taken it since him saying that he will not be supporting Donald Trump. Even here, you just look at what people are saying about him. He's just taking it on the chin. He was crippled, man, from early on. I mean, this whole thing with J6, that killed his political career right there, at least for the foreseeable future. Not to say that things can't change politically over time. They certainly can, and on a dime. But here he is, you know, this guy's posting Chicago One Ray says, Mike Pence stood next to Nancy Pelosi on J6 and certified a contested election. He knew fully well they were going to frame Trump. Pence is an effing traitor. Right? So I told you when he started running for the nomination, he didn't stand a chance against Trump. Now here he is coming out against Trump and still taking it on the chin. In the long run, you never know what's going to happen in politics. Public opinion can swing like a pendulum very dramatically from one direction to the other. And here's Republicans against Trump. Mike Pence isn't Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, or Nikki Haley. He's not a moderate. Pence is a conservative, is as conservative as it gets. You can't claim that he's somehow part of the establishment deep state. He served as Trump's VP for 4 years. He ran with him again in 2020. What else are they saying about him here? Real constitutional conservatives do not support Trump, especially after the January 6th insurrection. So, I mean, there's conservatives, as I say, with a completely different view, supporting Pence, not supporting Trump. And it just shows what a wide range of opinion you can have even within the same political party. And here's Mel, probably a Democrat, maybe something even further left, who says, here's Mike Pence signing his name to a bomb that was later dropped on civilians. You can't take your loser's endorsement and good conscience platitudes and run off into the sun forever, Mike. No one's buying that BS, good Christian crap you're selling anyone. Now, I don't know where that bomb was dropped. You can make that claim and say that it killed innocent civilians. I have no idea. But it makes for a good Twitter post, I guess. And as the saying in journalistic circles goes, never let the truth get in the way of a good story or a good Twitter post, or X, formerly known as Twitter. Christopher Webb says 1/4 of Trump's own party didn't vote for him during the primaries. He's a weak candidate. We heard Mike Pence unendorsed Trump yesterday, but he's in addition to the long list of former Trump officials who say he shouldn't ever set foot in the White House again. And then you see the CNN report, or clips of CNN reports interviewing John Bolton.
It should not
at the edge of the table.
His former attorney general, a whole variety of people that were formerly.
Yeah. What
he had some people within his own administration with knives out and sticking them in his back too during his presidency, especially Bolton, as you see right there. So choose wisely when you choose a VP. Things seem to be going pretty well in the early days of the whole Trump presidency. Then the pandemic hit and everything really changed. And it seemed like a lot of the time, I thought Pence was actually a good choice initially because he was so sort of deadpan, even keeled, steady as she goes. And every time Trump would rock the boat, he'd sort of like smooth the waves out, come in and kind of calm things down on the other side. He was pretty masterful with his words, minimizing the reverberations that would come from like a Trump verbal barrage against an opponent or some issue. And sometimes where he would put his mouth right in his own foot, Pence would come along from behind and rescue him sometimes with eloquence and political experience that at the time Trump certainly was lacking. That didn't really seem to hurt him, though, because he's just such a giant bulldozer. He just blows away or just mows over his political opponents. He just sort of sucks the oxygen out of a room as soon as he walks in, and his rallies just keep on growing and growing and growing. And this here is this is people waiting outside the rally in Ohio to get in to see Trump. Check it out. The lineups are still strong. And it's not playing. I don't know what the heck the problem is here. Let me just pull it down. all these Trump rallies, huge crowds. They keep coming out. They keep coming out. How those numbers didn't translate into enough votes in the last election to put him back into the White House, and we had Biden in there instead. Well, I've got my own thoughts on it, but you don't see these kinds of numbers coming out to rallies for other candidates. There's more to it than just sheer numbers, though. There's strategy and getting the actual numbers of votes out and the number of ballots with the right names on it. Early voting, mail-in ballots, all of those kinds of issues, right? And, it's all about election integrity. So, as all that goes on, we're still left wondering what will happen with RFK's VP pick. Well, we know that on the Biden side, it's going to be Kamala. I mean, I think a lot of people would like to get rid of her, but I think that would be tough at this point. Not likely. But she's, I would say, not popular overall. Just look at the Twitter posts about her tonight. Wide range. Here's Don Lucer, Kamala Harris. Oh, I'm not even going to read that. That's probably going to get us sued because it's so defamatory. Whether it's true or not, I have no idea. Jesus. Oh, my goodness. There's some sort of woman being beaten or something at some terrible thing in India, and they're trying to link Kamala Harris to that just by saying I'd say it's almost racist. It is probably a racist thing. They are all corrupt posts replying to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Kamala Harris is a fraud. She's a 14th Amendment anchor baby born to, yeah. Foreign citizens. Terrible stuff on Twitter. Oh my goodness. The Mr. Person guy posts, Kamala Harris is an actual joke. Nobody should have to go to jail for smoking weed. During a time as California's Attorney General, over 1,500 people were sent to jail for cannabis-related offenses. And as San Francisco's DA, she secured over 1,900 cannabis-related convictions. Maybe she'd have change of heart after realizing that stoners will be sympathetic to Biden's forgetfulness. As you can see, and that's an issue. That's actually an old issue that came up when she was running for the nomination, first time around, and then was subsequently chosen as Biden's running mate. But her opponents within her own party hammered on that cannabis issue. So again, what about RFK Jr.? Well, you've got Aaron Rodgers, you've got Jesse Ventura. It's now looking like neither one of them may be the chosen golden ticket to the White House. And then overnight, we were seeing some suggest that it might be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Let's go and look at what's going on with Arnold. I don't know how that can possibly be because I don't think he was born in the country. So couldn't be president. So therefore, it's kind of a non-starter having him be the vice president because, the Constitution doesn't allow that. He's just posting stuff on here about physical fitness. It doesn't look to me on his X page like he's ramping up for any kind of a campaign or trying to position himself to get somebody to approach him or bring him in or sell himself to anybody like RFK Jr. as a running mate. I'm not seeing anything on here to indicate any of that. Maybe he's just being coy, but I don't think so. I think what we've been seeing, these posts about maybe Arnold being his running mate, is just a bunch of hot air. So much so that some people have been posting things like, what you're witnessing is masterful politicking by the by the RFK campaign, because he doesn't have the funds for advertising. So this is a way to get the mainstream media to pay attention to him. I don't think I don't think they're playing 5D chess. I don't think so. Me personally, no. I don't think Schwarzenegger was ever a thing. I think there's just people doing this and posting. And tonight on Strange Bedfellows at 9:00, following this broadcast, I'll be on with Lori, and she has the inside scoop on what's going on with RFK Jr. and his campaign, what his plans are for a running mate. And now I had a clip here. I hope I can find it. I don't know where it went. But I do have a clip of RFK talking about this very thing tonight. Let me take a break. I'm going to find this clip for you and share it with you, because it kind of blows all of this talk out of the water. And I don't know if it's what Glory has coming up as well. She's got something special for us at 9. This, though, is making its round in the public. I noticed it this afternoon. So I'll share it with you when we come back. I just have to find it again. My apologies, but here we go.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, so I've got it. I had it before. Somehow it got lost in the mix here, but I have it back. Here's Kennedy speaking, and I'm not exactly sure where this is, but this is new. And he's indicating here that he's made up his mind, but it's a surprise. It's a surprise. Here we go. Let me share it with you.
I'm going to name a vice president on the 26th in Oakland. We have an extraordinary person. I can't tell you who it is. But it's really, it's somebody, it's not any of the people that you're talking about.
So it's a surprise, but none of the people that people have been talking about, none of them. So I don't know who gave this list to the New York Times. I don't know. I don't know. But now we're hearing right from the guy himself that it's none of these people. So it's not Jesse Ventura. It's not Aaron Rodgers. It's not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Probably not Tulsi Gabbard. Who might it be? I do not know. But at 9 o'clock, we might get a better idea of who it is. Now, I bet you, Lori, if anybody knows, it'd be her, because she's dialed right into the campaign. She talks to the people over there, and she'll tell us. She'll tell us what's going on. She'll give us the inside scoop. As much information as there is available, she is going to share it with us. I'm sure of that. So make sure you stick around for all the excitement at 9 p.m. This transmission will continue at 9, and we'll pick up that program and just continue on with that right here on the Rumble channels. On the YouTube channels, you will need to tune in again, because the transmission will end and then it will start over again on at least 2 of our YouTube channels. So just making you aware. That is the way it's going to work tonight with this broadcast. What else do we have for you? I think that's sort of the majority of the stuff. We are going to try and make these phones work tonight for you guys. Let me just run a little promo here again. I'm going to go check the Newswire. And then when I'm done with that over there, I'm going to be right back here. And we'll let you know if we've missed anything. Just check my list of stories that I want to make sure we touch on tonight. And then we'll try and open those phones so you guys can weigh in on the conversation. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are Mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we've hit most of the I think we hit most of the stuff we need to talk about tonight. There is this volcano that has erupted. Let me just check the latest on that for you. I know that some people are following that story. In Iceland, a lot of people focused on earthquakes and volcanoes these days. So this volcano erupted today. It's the fourth time in 3 months. So Iceland's meteorological office said the eruption opened a fissure in the earth 2 miles long. This happened between Stora and Skogfell and Hagafell Mountains. And hundreds of people have been evacuated. So people just keeping an eye on it. So, yeah, lots of attention, as I say, on seismic activity, earthquakes, volcanoes, for a lot of different reasons. I guess people are talking about that stuff these days. Let's get to these phones, shall we? I'm going to see if I can get this thing cranked up here. Okay, here we go. Let me just see if I can make this work for you tonight. I'm producing on my own, as usual. So, just a lot of buttons to click here on this new system, which should work just fine. Here we go. I'm going to dial in there. You guys can watch me while I work. There we are. And I have to punch in these numbers. And almost there. Almost. Here we go. That should work. I hope. There we go. All right. Looks like we are live. Yes, we are. We are live on the air with the phone system. Let me bring this up over here. Oops. We don't want that. Wrong screen. We need to bring up this one over here. Oh, for crying out loud, Rick. Clicking on things that we ought not be clicking on. Here we go. Oh, frustrating. Here we go. Let's try it one more time and bring up the correct window. That would be the one, Rick. There. Thank you for doing that properly that time. You're quite welcome. All right. So that gets the system up. That means we're ready to go. Now here's this number you can call tonight to join the conversation. Should be down here, right there. 1-319-527-6770. 1-319-527-6770 is the number to call. And I'll run that little promo, and you guys can get hooked up here. So let me do that, bring this over here, and then I can click on the promo now. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call now at 1-319-527-6770. That's 1-319-527-6770. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-319-527-6770. Call now at 1-319-527-6770. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you.
Feel the vibrations. Our quest continues. The truth is out there. We are Mavericks.
So that is a U.S. number. If you are calling that line, shouldn't be an issue for you if you have Canada-U.S. calling. But if you only have Canada-wide calling and you're calling from Canada, then there could be a potential charge levied to your account if it goes through a T-Mobile or PC. What's the company? PCS Mobile in the States. Those two companies may add a charge to your account. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to go to our first caller of the night, and I'm going to put up another number that you can call if you are calling strictly from Canada. So get out a pen, and I'll put that up on the screen for you. It's a temporary number for tonight only. But here's our first caller. Let's see who we have on the line. Hello, who do we have on the line?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, Rick.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's your good old friend, Dragon.
Great to hear from you.
Little insight on what's going on with our free speech.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we have Menzies being arbitrarily arrested, which is, I would call that fascism. So,
yeah.
This is also reminding us of the Cold War One, which what happened and things that was happening back in the days. So even in the democratic countries like America or even Canada. So
yeah,
that was a thing, like business as usual back in the days. So it's back.
Yes.
So as you said, when you're an independent journalist, I mean, geez, you can be yourself targeted by that.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that it's probably already the case. If not, well, days are counting. So, I mean, we got to be careful with what we say and what's going on. And, I mean, people should be, I would say, scared. By the way, people on YouTube, I say you. Hi. I see you. But, yeah, people should be scared about what's going on. I mean, even yourself, if you're, or me, or, the common people, okay, you're just, okay, someone who's doing a comment on some medias, well, you could be also targeted really easy.
Oh, yes.
So it's scary.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
And as you with I would call a long 30 years of background of journalism, that all the oops, that all the rules behind the things, well, you're probably like the first target of the government right now.
I sometimes wonder if, what might happen, who's going to show up at my door and or knock my door down just because I'm not thinking the right thing. It does cross my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's
that's scary.
dark days in that regard for sure. Yeah, I'm just sorry, Dragon. I'm a little distracted because I'm trying to create a banner so people can call the right numbers here tonight while I'm talking to you. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to do three things at once. Four things.
I see
really.
it on the screen.
Yeah. And I need to get this other number back up on the screen too. 6770. So let me put that one back up. Yeah. Any other thoughts on these political stories we were talking about tonight?
Yeah, well, about GFK Jr. Or RFK, sorry. This guy, I'm not sure. But, well, you made a point, actually. He's like probably like the third runner, which probably the whole political view on the U.S. side are just looking at that probably like the Joker on the place and probably a bad thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. His campaign, I just sometimes I feel
is on our
I feel sometimes like his campaign has been misfiring, and that it's succeeding in spite of itself. He's got a powerful name, so that's carrying him. But sometimes it seems the strategy his campaign team has been using is almost counterproductive, counterintuitive. It seems to work against him at times, and yet he's still there.
Yeah. But I mean, probably he's kind of probably thinking that he's doing mistake or have probably done mistake, think of probably that his stance was probably not the good one, so he changed stance once in a while just to, probably feels how, the U.S. citizens feel about it. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna. Sorry, I'm trying to get these things up on the line while I'm talking on the screen while I'm talking to you. And that's where we need to be. Okay, now I've got the stuff up. Sorry about that, Dragon. I'm, again, just distracted here. So, yeah.
By all means, it's all good.
So what else is going on with you? You're still up there in Quebec?
Yeah, I'm still in Montreal. Actually, I live in my studio. I'm pretty much settled, and everything's fun.
So we saw the we saw the premier of Quebec meet with Justin Trudeau this past week, and Legault was asking for total power over immigration in Quebec, and Trudeau is saying no to that. But can you explain to our viewers, from your perspective, why Legault would want full control over the immigration issue in his province?
To be quite honest, I didn't follow them on this one, but what I would say probably, or rather, it's just my my assumption here. I think that he would like to have the whole power for that, because he wants to filtrate what's going on, or filtrate who's going to come in and so on. So, and probably also the numbers.
Yeah, I know that in Quebec, the language rights, French culture, very important to the people there. They want to preserve that. That it was always an issue front and center, even during constitutional talks and as they were trying to ratify the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Yeah, Bill 101.
Yeah, so this is an important thing. And immigration obviously has a major impact on culture. When you're bringing people in from other countries, it's going to change your demographics, right? The demographic mix. So Legault, seeing that as potentially a transformative thing, maybe even a threat to the culture of Quebec, the language of Quebec. That's why I think he probably would want to limit immigration. But I don't know. Some people would.
Well, what if he's afraid of actually that demographic view or that demographic changed, and he doesn't want that change, That's probably what he's fearing.
Very
Doesn't
much
want
so,
to lose his power.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. So I don't know, man. It's in Canada, though, when you've got a prime minister like Justin Trudeau that is committed to and really a liberal government that is very pro-immigration and bringing in a lot of people from the Middle East right now, especially, two very different points of view on this. So, clash.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a good idea. You know, I mean, in a way, I mean, there's probably way to counter that in a way, because we don't have all, like I said the other day, I mean, we live in a house crisis. We need more building just for our own citizens. So, I mean, in a way, how would you put those people around? It's kind of impossible to bring all those people around and feed them or put a roof under their head, in a way. And also, you know, it's true that you will blend in probably like too much of that. I would say those people that come from another country. I mean, you will dilute the culture in a way and stuff like that. So we got to be careful with all that. It's a slippery slope, I would say.
Yeah. You know, some people on the other side would argue that opposing immigration like that is racist. But at the same time, I say, if you're going to bring people here from another country, initially when they come, they may be an economic burden. In the long run, when they integrate into the community and they become productive and get jobs and they overcome language barriers and things of that nature, then they would end up contributing to society. Initially, though, we need to make sure that we can support the people we bring here so that they are properly housed, that they are given opportunities to get the education or the upgrading that they need, or to learn other languages, French or English, and you know, take whatever skills they have so that they can meet certifications here and become gainfully employed. We need to support people who come, and if we don't have the healthcare, the school system, the social safety nets in place in order to take care of folks like that and give them the hand up that they need, then we need to, you know, maybe back off a bit on that. And we also need to make sure we can maintain those same kinds of supports for people who are already here, the existing population.
Right. And we need some people to probably go work as a immigration, how you call that, someone that will integrate someone else from another country, you know, help you to get there. So, I mean, we need those people and probably some people to go offer themselves for that. So that's probably some opening for some jobs here for even us, you know?
Yeah.
We are the one who lives there, so we are the one who's gonna be like the best to show them what is being a Canadian and live the Canadian way, if you will.
Yeah, and then, you know, you see this clash in the streets during this protest where, you know, what didn't even amount to a clash at that point, but with David Menzies being arrested, but you're seeing really two worlds colliding there. You're seeing Menzies working for Rebel News, Ezra Levant, Jewish, taking a very strong pro-Israeli stance on that issue and Gaza. And then you've got the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian protesters in the streets. And then this Rebel News reporter walks right up and he's trying to ask questions of this protester, this Palestinian protester, and the cops arrest him. So I see this much, the police perspective on it, where they're trying to maybe prevent things from escalating and blowing up, and they're maybe seeing Menzies as a potential provocateur simply by asking a question because he's somebody representing what some people might interpret as a Jewish organization, although I don't view Rebel News as just a Jewish organization. I see it as a news outlet, and I see Menzies doing his job as a journalist. I don't think that aspect of it should really come into play when you have a journalist walking up. But inevitably, I think that's how the cops were probably looking at it. And then as a result, they end up violating his rights. I really think they did. And maybe in the interest of keeping the peace, but they did violate his rights. And now they've left themselves open to public criticism, justifiably, because I think it was the wrong move. But at the same time, if they didn't do that, I don't know what might have happened, right? Maybe the guy would just answer Menzies' questions. But you've seen Menzies in action too. When he asks questions of people like that, sometimes his questions can be edgy, shall we say, and that could trigger somebody. So
Yeah.
in a situation like that, as emotional and as fired up as people were, no telling where something like that might ultimately go. What are your views on it?
Well, Menzies, as we know, he has his way to, for example, when he looks into corruption in politics or what, he has this little thing like he's following you to the trace, even to get into your car almost and ask you the crude question and, hardball question. So, yeah, he has that little, he's this guy. So basically, I think the police went probably like thinking of his of this little thing that he is. He's the guy that asked the whole hardball question on the field. So this is the thing, and this is why probably I will call that arbitrarily arrested, because I don't think that he would be there just asking hardball question and being a dick about it. Sorry to say say that this way, but like being I would call that intimidating on the one that he asked question to. So I don't think that was the case. He was probably just there to view the both sides of the story, because that's what he's trying to do all the time. So, but he does that with a low hardcore way, I would call that.
Yes, yeah. But at the end of the day, he needs to be able to do his job, regardless of, ethnicity, religion, political views. He's a journalist. He should have the right of any citizen to just walk around on the street and do his job as a journalist, right? And that includes sometimes asking questions of people who have opposing political views. So yeah, police really, I think, were again really overstepping, becoming far too authoritarian in that instance. I think it's going to cost him in court ultimately.
Yeah, because I've never seen a journalist being arrested so many times in my lifetime. Okay, from what I remember. Okay, I don't remember that. Okay, probably I was too young to learn about some of our journalists that been into that process. But for Menzies, it's my first to recognize that problem, and to me, it's persecution toward our freedom of speech and journalism.
Yeah. Now, I do have another number up on the screen here for folks tonight. If you are in Canada, you can call 519-401-1373. And that way, if you don't have North America-wide calling, you can be sure that if you've only got Canada-wide calling, then that number for sure won't add any additional bills to your phone bill. And Dragon, I know that you're in Montreal. You're calling in on the main line. I don't know if you're being billed anything extra on that line tonight. So let's dump off this call. If you want to call back, feel free, sir. The number's on the bottom of the screen there, 1-519-401-1373. Hopefully we get some other callers in tonight. You can call in, folks, on either one of those two lines. And Dragon, thank you for calling in. And yeah, I mean, we don't have really other calls stacked up here, so feel free to call in on that other line. But I want to make sure that you're not being routed through that T-Mobile system in the U.S. where they might add an additional fee to your phone bill. Okay, so we're just going to log off with Dragon for now. Okay, Dragon? I think he's gone. Okay, so yeah. And again, yeah, you can call in Canada 1-519-401-1373 tonight, and we'll just take your call right in. I think we can only take 1 or 2 calls in the queue at any given time. So if you call and it's busy or you can't get through or it goes to voicemail, you'll need to call back. Let me just take this call right here. Let me just vet this first one. And we have Isabel on the line. Well, hello and welcome back, Isabel.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm listening tonight. I know some people don't really like Trump, I guess, and are argumentative with him.
Mm-hmm.
But by what I've been watching through the channel Fox New York, where Tucker used to be on, he does come across strong. But I think what his play or gameplay, and he's getting, I guess, frustrated with everything that's going on, and he knows once he gets in, he's going to have to clean up all this crap. And I think the longer it goes, the more frustrated he gets, because not everybody is seeing what's being done to them behind the screen. So, and I kind of think that's where he's getting this, he's being more forceful than he was before.
So do you think when Trump gets in, if he gets in, and I think he probably will be elected myself, but if he's the president again, you think he will go after his political opponents using?
I don't think he's going to literally go after them with vengeance, but I think he's going to be aggressive to rearrange the bills that were brought in, to cancel the bills and clean up the immigration that they've got in the States, because it's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're bad up here. We don't have a lot well, I can't say that we don't have a lot of crime. We do. Our crime, I see, is not as intense with the shootings and the rapings that the States has. Now, whether we're actually hearing about it or not, but this is really, it's getting to the point where they're being overrun. And yeah, I mean, it can come to a takeover of the States. You see what happened in Florida with the guys from Haiti.
Yes. Yeah, I just saw a post about an immigrant from Haiti who had been convicted of or arrested for sexual assault.
Yep.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that really get people fired up.
14 years old.
Yes. Yeah. I saw that.
I mean, and then I see where DeSantis had, they got hold of a boat that came in from Haiti, and there were night goggles and weapons landing in Florida, and they turned that boat, they arrested everybody, turned it around, and it's not it went back. He refused them entry. They were arrested, and they're going back.
Yeah, it's very unstable in Haiti right now. You're seeing terrible things happening down there.
Yeah.
A lot of people trying to escape the country, trying to get here. But some of those people potentially on their way here are people who got out of those prisons too. So I think proper vetting needs to happen if any of them are allowed in.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, and because they're not vetted, and because a lot of them have no, I don't want to say the V word, no immunization, which is different from the V word.
Mm-hmm.
They're not immunized, so they're bringing all of this stuff back to our shores, Canada and the States.
Yeah.
So we're being forced to be under the thumb for the V, and they're not to be immunized. So what's your game plan, Trudeau?
Heck, we saw that. We saw that even during the pandemic, like at the height of the pandemic, they were allowing people who are not immunized into the country. Yep. When they were forcing people who are already here to get the thing in the arm.
And if you didn't, and when you came in, even if you were Canadian and you did have it, you still had to be quarantined for 14 days. But the other ones could walk through, okay, clear, like.
No, it has been upside down world since, we've seen these guys get into office. It makes no sense.
No, what's right is wrong and what's wrong is right.
Yes. That's where we're at in upside down world.
Now, I did have a question. I seen that, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but the CERN.
The CERN or the CERB?
No, the CERN.
This is the particle accelerator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if they're accelerating particles, would that not cause that crack in the earth? Would that not make a shift?
No, I don't think so.
No?
No, my view on that is no.
And so the other thing I'm wondering is, they say fact can become fiction and fiction can become fact. And I don't like to go down that rabbit hole either. But with everything that they're doing, either with the aluminum oxide and with all this other stuff with the G5 and all, or the 5G and all this, it kind of makes you wonder how people react, because we know some people are more sensitive to certain things. Like I'm sensitive to the atmosphere. So when we have a low pressure, I feel like I'm being squished. I feel like I'm being pressed down on the top of my head. And that's when I would usually get a lot of migraines. And I'd be praying for a thunderstorm to break that pressure.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's what causes people to go the way they're going? I mean, outside of the screwy world that we're in, and we never know what surprise we get until we wake up. I'm just wondering if all that atmospheric and G5 or 5G reacts on people like that to cause them to do these stupid things that they're doing.
Well, I have my own views on it. My view on something like 5G is that it's probably not entirely safe insofar as any kind of high intensity radio waves have the potential to cause cancer or other diseases in people. Okay. Like I used to work in television, and I used to work at a broadcast tower, and there were all kinds of transmitters on the giant tower above me, microwave transmitters in particular. Like that's the same kind of bandwidth that's used for a microwave oven, right? But it's high above, but subjected to, the whole time I was there, I was subjected to those kinds of radio waves. In World War II, radio operators developed cataracts at an early age because of being subjected to the radio transmissions that they were exposed to. And that was just the shortwave kind of radio waves that they were using at the time. Police officers have to be concerned about the effects of their radar guns, speed radar, on their health. So those kinds of things certainly can have an effect on health. You've seen all kinds of studies on the effects of irradiated power coming from power lines and the way it can stunt crop growth. It can cause health issues with cattle that are, living near transmission lines. So those kinds of things are certainly an area of concern. I don't personally believe that 5G is being used in some sort of a plot to activate graphene oxide in people's blood to get them to control them, or to make people's heads blow up, or control their minds, or do things like that. But what is being done is there's all kinds of information warfare out there. There's propaganda, there's psychological manipulation. And I think people are being subjected to a level of a psyop through the internet. And when we're consuming this information and being taken down rabbit holes and being fed all kinds of information, I'm seeing people being led on a progression, an indoctrination, an assimilation, if you will, into a collective of a certain Borg-like mindset it is disturbing to me. I think that's honestly happening on various sides in various ways, depending on what side of things you're at politically or socially. And I think some people are more susceptible to it than others. I think they are using MK Ultra mind control techniques as part of that. And as part of that, I think that the government's decision to legalize and normalize the use of drugs like marijuana, LSD, and even encourage the use of magic mushrooms and other hallucinogens, mind-altering substances, I think that leaves people wide open to this psychological manipulation online, because those are the very drugs they were using, we know, as part of those MK Ultra mind experiments. LSD, magic mushrooms, marijuana. And that's the stuff that people are using while they sit and watch all this stuff that they're being fed online. So to me, that is a big part of what's going on today. That's why I don't even recognize some of the people that I think I used to know. And I think that some people are being turned into, honestly, zombies. Even some people who honestly think they're awake, when in fact they're being sucked down deep, dark holes where they're being fed some truth and a lot of stuff that's kind of weird and crazy.
Yeah, I know. There's some people who I know it's very few people that I run into, because most people are on the right side of thinking with a conscious mind. But the odd time you'll run into somebody who goes, "Oh yeah, Trudeau's doing great. He's going to bring his electric cars," and I'm thinking, "Oy vey, are you for real? Like, you think this is awesome? Oh yeah, and we're going to be on a credit score, and we're all going to get the same pay." And I'm thinking, that's great. Because what if the guy down the street works twice as hard as you or less as hard as you, and you all get this even pay? I wouldn't be very happy with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it happens on our side to some degree as well. In fact, I'm working on a story right now where I'm going to show people, how can I put this? And this is an important story, actually, where I'm going to show people how some use of fear is being used to actually rip people off. And I'm going to show you how they're doing it. And it's really disturbing to me. I don't like it at all because they're abusing people, but that's for another night. I can't get into it now until I finish all my research and get all my ducks in a row.
Yeah. It's really weird. I know it's really, I know myself, when I used to work in a linen factory, and the people, they didn't like to stand beside me because I attract electricity. For whatever reason, I don't like it, but I attract electricity. But they could stand there and work bare hands at this electric roller. I had to wear nitrate gloves, and if they came near me, they got zapped. So,
okay.
And they'd be like, "What'd you do that?" I said, "I didn't do anything. You came in my bubble, and I guess I build up electricity because I couldn't pick up anything with my hands dry. I would have to wet my hands to pick something up because my skin is so dry. Even if I wear hand cream." But they would come near me, and they would just have to come within inches, and they would get zapped. And then, "You did that on purpose." I said, "I didn't do anything. I'm just a pillar, and if you come in, you're going to get it."
That reminds
me. That's why I was asking, maybe more people are susceptible, just to different atmospheric things. So that's. And I was wondering, maybe
certainly some people are. I mean, with just air pressure, right? Low pressure, high pressure, weather systems as they move in and out. Yeah, I know that low pressure, when just before you get a storm, for instance, and that the atmospheric pressure drops, that can cause a lot of people to get migraine headaches.
Yes, I used to get a lot of migraine headaches when the clouds were low and it was just hanging there ready to explode with thunder. I'd be like, "Oh, hurry up and crack," because as soon as that cracks, the pressure is going to release because the atmosphere is going to be higher, and you're not going to squeeze me into the ground, and I won't have a headache. And my husband used to go, "You're weird." I said, "No, but I feel it," and he never did. So
yeah,
I used to tell him, I said, "You just don't have the right code. That's all."
It reminds me, when we were kids, we used to, drag our sock feet on the carpet and then run up to somebody and give them a shock, right?
Yeah. I didn't even have to do that. I would just have to walk across my mother's carpet, touch something, and they would get it.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to rub my feet. Just
I think what you're saying is true. I've met people like that who seem to build up a static charge a lot easier than other people.
oh yeah.
Maybe
And that
maybe
would be,
maybe you're not hydrated enough. I don't know what it is,
and
but
maybe that's what it is. I don't drink a lot of water, so maybe that's what it is. I'm not hydrated enough.
well, I don't know, strap an antenna to your head or something, or just put some tinfoil on, and
Oh,
maybe
there
your
you go.
electric
No,
charge can power the city and gives people free energy.
Yeah. No, my daughter made me a tinfoil hat last Christmas. She thought it was funny. She said, "You're a conspiracy theorist, so you need a tinfoil hat." So she got me a colander.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She put little spikes of tinfoil on it.
Yeah.
I didn't find it very funny, so I paid her back this year, but that's okay.
Oh, should we ask how you paid her back?
I took the same colander and I put an LED remote control light on the top.
Yeah.
So that it would protect her and it would flash when the aliens would come.
That's pretty good. Well, that reminds me, everybody needs to tune in tomorrow night for the show, because we will be having our weekly True Spiracies episode,
good.
right? So that should
I
be
enjoy
fun.
those.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, listen, Isabel,
Okay.
we'll sign off. I've got somebody on the other line, so I appreciate you calling tonight very much. Thank you. It's always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, let's take our next caller on the main line. All right, who do we have on the line?
Hey, it's Will from California.
Well, hello. How are you tonight?
Well, I'm great. How you doing out there?
Well, we're hanging in here up in Kanakistan, and I think our weather here has been almost as nice in Ontario, southern Ontario anyway, as it is where you are. It's been some days as much as, I'd say 70 degrees here, 65 anyway.
We've had recent snow. We're even in Southern California up in the mountains.
Oh, well, we're
Hey,
flipping the weather.
I'd like to, yeah. Oh my gosh, really? That's so true. I've been thinking the oxymoron of the decade has to be election integrity. We just aren't quite focused enough, and the evil political strategy of this uniparty is just unbelievably and undeniably nefarious. And I think about our 2016 election with the Russian hoax, the 2018 debacle with the Mueller report, and the 2020 lockdowns and mail-out ballots, and then eventually January 6th. But I think even more important, before the 22 election, let me know what you think.
Mm-hmm.
The 2022 election, we started getting the Supreme Court justice involved, and obviously we had a leak of the decision of Roe v. Wade, which I think really, along with other things, caused problems in that election. And now all of a sudden we get a 9-0 decision to keep Trump on the ballot. It seems to me this is plausible deniability. Just, keep him on the ballot, just don't let him win, because I think what we're really going to see in this November 5th election down here is a lot of adjudication that's going to be needed. What do you think?
I think that's probably a fair way to look at it. I think that the United States really needs to do a lot to tighten up the rules to address public concerns and restore public faith and confidence in the system. Even if the elections, just for the sake of argument, let's say the elections are being run in a proper fashion and the outcome is real, they still need to do more, because people are not viewing it that way. You have probably half the country that thinks that the last election was not legitimate. That's no good. Even if it was legitimate, it's still no good. you need to have the people have to have confidence in the system. So you need to have voter ID. You need to secure the system so that people are, confident that it's one person, one vote. That's it. That the counting is done legitimately, that everything is secure. They really need to do a lot more because right now people don't believe it. And that doubt is all that is needed to tear the country apart.
Well, and we all know that it would take one thing to get rid of the so-called quote unquote election deniers out of their hair, would be to put the receipts on the table. They keep saying there was nothing wrong, but every time you want to look at the black box or you want to go back and actually have the physical ballots counted, they're locked away or they've deleted the information from the servers already before the 22-month had even expired. I mean, the easy way to go forward is just one-day voting, paper ballot, ID of some form, and then you get rid of all this, all the questions, like you just said.
Yeah,
it's just go back to simplicity, and there'll be no more problems.
I agree with that 100%. Even the recounts, right? I said that just like you did. I agree with you. It was like, why wouldn't you want a recount? If somebody wants a recount, why wouldn't you want it too? Because if there's any question about it, you should have a recount. That way people on both sides can be sure. And if you're confident that it was legitimate, then why not? What are you afraid of?
Well, it just proves the fact, I think it was Stalin or Lenin that said it's not those who cast the vote that counts, it's those who count the vote that counts. And we could clear so much if we just had the transparency. And what's been going on down here, a lot of my friends have left the Democrat Party for nothing less or more than just the lack of transparency. People are suspicious when you don't want to lay your cards on the table.
Yes. Yeah. And look at the damage it has done. Look at the damage that's about to be done, because I can see that we're likely to have violence in the streets again, only worse this time. Wait till summer. It's going to get crazy, I think.
I hope not, but we'll exhaust all possible means before that happens, I hope. And the other issue is a false flag that could actually initiate everything, kind of like what we've seen a little bit of the January 6th issues.
Yeah. And, you've still got a lot of people in jail over that. So that's why, people are so upset. It's not good. This is the United States. I never thought I'd see, times like this in my lifetime. But the United States has been reduced to almost like, when it comes to elections, almost like a banana republic because of all of the undermining of confidence, the questions about the integrity of the system. It's tragic.
Yeah. Again, the free speech issue, we just had a bill passed, I'm sure you've heard here, with this TikTok issue. And again, it's not coming up with the truth and putting what's up front, and telling. It doesn't take 13 pages of minutia to ban one company from a country. And it's just giving the executive branch more power to do whatever it wants with other websites and other apps and other platforms like your own.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're banned for life, apparently, on Facebook. That's what we're being told. So you can be sure you're in the right place now.
Yeah, that's the one thing we do know is that the only thing we know is that the mainstream media is not telling us the truth and that we have to go elsewhere and do our digging.
Yeah. And again, I wouldn't say that the mainstream media lies all the time, but certainly because they have lied, now people don't know what to trust. They don't trust it at all. And that's the problem with lying. That's why I say you should never lie, especially if you're in journalism. Don't lie to people, because if you get caught lying about even one thing, then people can't trust anything you say because now they know you're willing to lie. And that's no good. So don't do that if you're in this business ever. Making a mistake and correcting it is one thing. Outright lying about something, that's something else.
It doesn't take long to get caught crying wolf, that's for sure.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's why people just don't put any trust in MSM anymore. And Trump's still making hay with that at his speeches too. I saw, again, every time he's getting up there now, he's hitting the mainstream media. Can't trust him. Fake news. He scores points with it all the time, and it's easy. They're an easy target now because they've shot themselves in the foot too. Any thoughts on these, these possible candidates for VP or for running mates for any of these guys, for Trump or for RFK Jr.?
Well, I'd really like the only true outsider that I saw in the game, and yeah, we might be throwing the dice a little bit, and yeah, he might be young, same age, although as was John F. Kennedy when he ran for president. But I believe pretty wholeheartedly and done a lot of research on Vivek Ramaswamy.
Mm-hmm. So you think that he will be, one of them shortlisted?
I would hope he would be. I would hope at least he can penetrate Trump's inner circle and be the one to make the connection, because I think Trump's inner circle has really kept him from understanding what his base is all about at times. I think in general, there's a lot of agreement, but when it came to what people call the vaccine, and a lot of other people call it a genomic experiment, a lot of people don't trust a man that will never admit he's wrong about something. And it would be really good if Trump would come forward and not always want to take credit away from Biden like he did in his tweet the other day.
Mm-hmm.
That absolutely went viral. But I think Vivek is, if Vivek can stay within his inner circle, he can keep him abreast of what's really going on, because the rest of that circle, as far as I can see, the guy's still playing golf with Lindsey Graham, for crying out loud, and he still supports McCarthy. Thank God Vivek got in there and warned him about Ronna McDaniel, and they got rid of her. Also, Vivek evidently told him about the CBDCs, which he had no clue about. But now that he understands it, he's coming out against it. So we need somebody to pump some information to Trump and get him out of his multi-billionaire golfing world.
Interesting. I had this conversation with a friend earlier today. He was talking, about Trump, and my friend goes and watches, a couple of other sort of right-leaning or conservative type shows. And I can't remember which one it was, but he was saying that over there, they were trying to tell people that Trump has not been vaccinated. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure that Trump has been vaccinated, but it seems almost like some of these other programs or supporters of Trump are trying to run interference for him on this issue, because he seems to be vulnerable on the vaccination issue. And I think you're alluding to that. What are your thoughts on that? Because I've seen, I'm certain that he's been not only vaccinated, but boosted. And you can find all kinds of reports confirming that from the earlier days of the pandemic, right? When he was still president. So he's been vaccinated, but people are out there saying, oh no, he hadn't got the juice.
He early on was apprised of the therapeutics, the ivermectins and the hydroxychloroquines, from bona fide doctors who were actually using it and knew the safety. And of course, the problem with that was it eliminated the emergency use authorization of the Pfizer and Moderna shots. You can't have experimental jabs if there is an alternative. So they crushed him on that, and he caved to that, obviously. And yes, he came out on, I believe it was Bill O'Reilly, he did an interview with, and Bill got him to say, and he was proud of the fact that he had been not only vaccinated but boosted. But there's an interesting twist to that. If you do some digging, there's a website called How Bad Is My Batch? And
I need to caution you because we're on YouTube, and so I know where you're going with that, and we're already right on the edge on this subject. So I don't want to cross over that line. If you understand what I'm saying.
Anyway,
yeah,
he has been. Yeah, I do. I totally do, and no problem. We know that he has been vaccinated and boosted.
Yeah, and just because Bill Gates kind of controls the internet, what we do have to say here is that the vaccine is both safe and effective, and you should get as many shots as you possibly can, as often as you can. Get boosted early, get boosted often, and that's enough said about that. So, vaccines, yay! Anyway.
Yeah, I'm making money. Ask me how.
Oh, I shouldn't even laugh. It's so dark. It's so dark. Oh my. Such a dark subject. Oh my. Okay, sir. Well, thank you so much for calling in tonight. Great call. I really appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you as well. Okay, folks, and just let me pull up our next caller here. One moment while I bring that up on the line. And who do we have on the line tonight? Hello. Where are you calling from tonight, Patrick? Good. Patrick on the line. Where are you calling from? Okay, hang on a second here. I actually need to get you up on the screen. Hang on a second. I just need to click that. Okay, so you're Patrick and you're calling from the Okanagan out in where, British Columbia?
Yeah, that's right. So Vernon, and I'm up at the ski hill. So Boulder Star Ski Hill.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on Bill C-63.
So this is the new censorship bill, right?
Yeah, the online censorship bill, yeah.
Yeah, the Online Harms Act.
I'm just wondering whether you think it's going to actually have teeth, like it's going to be able to actually make a difference. Like, have the Liberals actually done something right for once?
Right? No, I don't think they've done anything right with this. I think they're, again, going too far. I think all these censorship bills have gone too far. I don't think that any of them are needed. I think that we have laws in place against things like defamation, slander, libel. I think we have the tools that are needed to address things on the public side of the internet and new technology. I think that those basic tools are already there. If anything, I think that they could use some regulations or regulatory framework in place for the internet companies that are maybe a little more robust, to encourage more competition, to limit their power, to make sure that there isn't more integration of power and influence between government and the big corporate tech companies, so that they can't abuse the systems and the technology. I think our government is focused on the wrong side. They're focused too much on the people when they should be looking at themselves, and they should be looking at the big companies running these tech companies to make sure our rights are not violated, that free speech is preserved, but that the proper limits are in place, and they should be imposing those limits through those companies, not on us. That's my view. I think they're doing it backwards. I think they've got everything upside down.
Yeah, definitely upside down. I guess when I say like they've done something right, I mean in that they've done something wrong and they're actually succeeding at something for once. You know, it seems to me like this bill can actually like work outside of the judicial system. Then they're going to have bureaucrats running tribunals for you know, hate crimes, including hate crimes that haven't even occurred yet. So like pre-crimes. Do you think that it's actually going to go through? Like they're going to be able to put ankle monitors on people and all that?
I would like to think no. I could see it happening because I see our government being pulled in such destructive directions. But if we continue down this path of war, worldwide conflict, yes, the more we progress into a wartime footing and wartime environment, the more authoritarian the government is going to become. The more the government sees potential threats to its authority and power existentially, the more you'll see them crack down in that regard. See, I could see it happening here, especially after what we went through during the pandemic, where I thought we would never, ever see something like lockdowns the way we saw them or mask mandates, but there they were and it happened. So could it happen? Oh yeah. If with the liberals in power, the NDP for sure, the conservatives maybe a little less likely, but even with them, it could easily happen. All those MPs of on the Conservative Party, they were all in on those lockdowns too. They didn't save us. So yeah, I could see it happening. If they see some sort of a real threat to the country, existentially, they'll just hit hard. They would do it in a heartbeat, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like it's going to be difficult, like logistically, to set up these different tribunals, across the country, right?
Yeah.
And then also have people to go, let's say, like, show up at people's doors and make sure they serve them, serve them the charges or whatever it is, and then have them show up at the tribunals, right? It's going to take time, I would think, before they can have all these people across the country and they can have it like in a working order, I would think, right?
Yep. So listen, I have to log off here because I have to go over and join Lori on her other show on Strange Bedfellows. And I see that we lost one of our Rumble channels because she's already running over there. So it's flipped over to that broadcast. But this was a great call. I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and I really hope you call back again. So please do. An absolute privilege talking to you.
You bet.
Okay, take care. Have a great night. Okay, folks, and we are gonna I'm gonna log out of this phone system. I'm gonna get over here and pick up Lori on the other side and end this transmission. We are going to continue though over on the show with Lori here. Let me just get this up so that I can rock and roll seamlessly into her program. Here we go.